Alright guys, welcome back to Drew Reviews. Today, we're going to talk about a movie that I really enjoy. It's the Sean Connery action sci-fi movie Outland from 1981. It stars him and Francis Sternhagen as Dr. Lazarus, Peter Boyle as Shepard. He kind of runs the place. And the basic plot of this movie, just real briefly, is you got Marshall O'Neill played by Connery, and he moves his family to this crap assignment on Jupiter's third moon named Io. And they don't want to be there. His wife actually picks up and leaves him, in the second act of the movie. And so he's there all by himself, isolated in this place he doesn't want to be. You find out that Shepard, who's the administrator over this facility, he's making all these profits. But as the story unravels, you find out that he's got this drug, this very illegal drug, that he's giving his workers and, getting much more production out of them. And so Connery finds out with the help of Dr. Lazarus and goes to bring him down. So it's a pretty straightforward plot, but I'll tell you right away, what I like about this movie is it is basically High Noon in space. It's a space western, and I love when movies do that. When they'll take something that's, been known to work. It's a good formula, and they'll put it in space, or, they'll put it in the ocean. Maybe not Leprechaun in space or Jason X, which is a fun movie, but, a good story to be told. And they changed the dynamics, the setting, and I really do like this setting. I like the story, I like the performances. Sean Connery's really good, trying to bring down this guy. All of his men are in with Shepard, and so they're crooked too. He's got no help, with the exception of Dr. Lazarus, played by Sternhagen. And I like the fact that he actually has more chemistry with this character who he just met. And in her own words, she says, I'm unpleasant, I'm not stupid. So, she's this very standoffish character, but he has more chemistry with her than he does his own wife. I thought that was really interesting. And I like the cat and mouse that he has with Peter Boyle's character, Shepard, where he keeps telling him he's going to bring him down. Shepard tries to buy him off. And so Shepard ends up bringing in, a couple of bounty hunters there at the end to take him down. It's very much like a Western where the bad guys come in and the good guys got to shoot him down. The pacing in this movie is really good. In the very beginning of the movie, it starts off with a guy who this drug has actually turned him psychotic. He's thinking there's spiders in his suit, and he ends up taking off all of his apparatus. His head blows up, which is funny. I'll get into that in my dislikes. But, this happens 2 or 3 times during the movie where these people just flip out, and he's trying to unravel the mystery with the help of Sternhagen's character. And I like the matte paintings in this movie. A lot of people probably wouldn't like them because they are kind of dated looking. You've got the moon there that they're on and the facility in the back, but you've got Jupiter, off kind of in the background, and it's actually animated. Most of the time it would just be drawn in there as a planet, but there's actually gases swirling in this matte painting. I thought that was a really cool touch, and you don't see too many matte paintings where that happens. Usually it's just somebody walking in the foreground. But that was really cool. And another touch that I thought was really awesome is this could very well be in the same cinematic universe as Alien. Both movies were produced by the Ladd Company. You got a lot of the same studio heads there. Jerry Goldsmith did the score to this movie. And so that was pretty interesting. I like his space scores between Alien and this and Planet of the Apes. Just does a really good job. So there's similar themes. You've got the whole theory of this company that's, kind of crooked, just like in Alien. And of course, there's a very dingy, very grungy looking used future, just like on that Alien ship, the Nostromo. This facility actually, there's narrow corridors. He's chasing these drug dealers down. And I thought that was pretty cool. You could really argue a tie-in between these two movies. And another thing I like about this movie is the tension's built pretty well. You've got the shuttle that comes every week from Earth to bring supplies, and so Shepard gets on the phone and orders these bounty hunters to come and take care of O'Neill. And so there's this clock in the mess hall that keeps counting down. In between time, he's playing racquetball or talking with Dr. Lazarus or getting ready for war. And so I thought that was a pretty good attempt at building tension. But as far as how he fought the bounty hunters, I really liked that. And he had Dr. Lazarus there to help him seal off sections of the ship to where they were just in this one corridor. And, he takes this tile and drops it and the guy sees it with his gun through his scope and shoots. And of course, there's no air in space, and so it just sucks out all the air out of this thing into the atmosphere, and the guy goes flying out. The effect there, of course, doesn't hold up, in 2023. This is a 1981 movie, so I don't expect it to. But I like how he took care of them. And of course, one of his guys turns on him there at the end, and he has to take care of him as well. And another cool thing about this movie is after the shipment comes in, Connery finds the drug. It's, stuck in this beef. And so he takes it to Dr. Lazarus to be examined. And this drug is called polydichloric euthymol. And if that sounds familiar to some of you out there, if you watch Terminator 2 Judgment Day, where they're there in Cyberdyne, and there's those barrels of yellow explosive, I'm pretty sure Dyson's kind of leaned up against one as he's dying there. If you look at the stickers, the warning stickers on there, it said, warning explosive, polydichloric euthymol. And so I love the fact that James Cameron must be a fan of this movie, or someone in, the props department was a fan of this movie and put that there on those stickers. That's just a little interesting fact I thought I'd share with you guys. So we've talked about the good. As far as the bad, there is a little bit. Like I said, some of the effects, when the guys' heads are blowing up from atmospheric pressure and there's this big stretch effect they use, that's just hokey. It looks bad. Most of the acting in this movie is pretty good. The wife's okay. The kid, oh my gosh, Sean Connery's kid, Paul, in this movie is just awful. And some of his and all of his delivery of all of his lines. And Connery's, supposed to be emotional. His kid's going to Earth. His wife's leaving on this shuttle. He's got tears in his eyes. And this kid's giving this terrible acting performance. When will I see you again, Daddy? And what's Earth like, Daddy? And it is terrible. Somebody should have stopped and taken a second, a third, maybe a 56th take at that. It's not good. The other thing about this movie that I thought was a little bit wonky is they're using shotguns in space. And, this is supposed to be like way in the future. I think maybe 2092 or something. And they're using shotguns, which, to me, that seems like it wouldn't be the best choice to use in a place, where you could shoot the window out of something and get sucked out into space. I don't think they thought that one through. I think maybe some kind of gun that you could set to stun like a Star Trek phaser would have been better. But, it is kind of cool that they're still using shotguns, but I don't know that it works in this setting. But that's about it as far as dislikes. This is a pretty good movie. And this movie, actually, every time I see it, I think of a different time in my life. So I saw this movie, I can tell you exactly what year it was. It was 2010 because of the story I'm about to tell. The boss on this, Shepard, played by Peter Boyle, reminds me of this tyrant of a boss I had at a place I worked at for 18 years. He was just awful and all about the bottom line. He wasn't selling drugs to his employees like this, but he would lie. And at one point, I can remember in 2010, and it was when I was watching this movie, because I remember on my third straight week of working Monday through Saturday for 12 hours to fix something that this man caused, I remember going home and watching Outland, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he is just like Shepard on this movie, just a horrible boss. But I don't want to sound bitter. I worked at this place for 18 years, and I have a nice 401k for when I get older. But yeah, just every time I see Shepard, I think of this guy and all the crap that we had to cover up for him. If you're watching this review and you know me, you probably know who that guy is. To me, this movie is the perfect example of a movie that could use a reboot. Nowadays they take these IPs from the 80s, these classic movies that they should not be touching at all. And they're either rebooting them or, reimagining them. To me, Outland is the perfect example of one that it went under everybody's radar in 1981. So, a lot of people would probably think it was its own thing. And you guys know me, I love practical effects, and I hate when a movie is just overly CGI heavy. But I think now, as dated as those effects are from 1981, you could take those and mix practical and CGI and make this movie look pretty decent and still tell a good movie. It's still, like I said, a Western in space. And Westerns are the easiest stories to tell because they're the simplest stories to tell. They're usually revenge tales. or a good guy going after the bad guy in this case. So I think Outland is definitely due for a remake, and if it ever does happen, I hope it actually gets discovered this time and appreciated by a mass audience. As far as what I'd rate Outland, I'm gonna go 7.5. I have a lot of fun with this movie. It is flawed with some of the terrible acting by that kid and the not so great acting by the wife. The effects, as I said, but there's so much good to be had here. I got to go 7.5. This is a movie I break out about once a year. So guys, if you liked what you saw in this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I like to talk sci-fi action like Outland, things like that. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.